The goal and hand rankings. In every hand of Texas Hold'em, there is one goal: win the pot. That pot is the collection of chips in the middle of the table, built from players' bets. You can win the pot two ways. The first is by having the best 5-card hand at showdown when all bets are called. The second is simpler and more common: make everyone else fold before showdown. Poker hands are ranked from weakest to strongest, and knowing this order is essential because every decision revolves around your hand's relative strength. The absolute best hand is the royal flush, 5 cards in sequence from 10 to ace, all in the same suit. This is the dream hand, and it is so rare you might never see it in your life. Next is the straight flush, 5 cards in numerical sequence and the same suit, such as 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of hearts. Below that comes 4 of a kind, or quads, 4 cards of the same rank, like 4 kings. Next you have a full house, which is 3 cards of one rank plus a pair. After that card comes the flush, which is any 5 cards of the same suit, not in order. Then we have the straight. This is 5 cards in numerical sequence but of mixed suits. Next is 3 of a kind, which is, as its name suggests, 3 cards of the same rank. For example, 3 8s with 2 random cards. It is stronger than many realize because even if your opponents also hold pairs, your set of 3 is likely to dominate them. Below that are 2 pairs, which are holding 2 separate pairs, like a pair of 10s and a pair of 7s. The 5th card, called the kicker, often determines the winner if 2 players both have 2 pair. This is followed by 1 pair, which is just 2 cards of the same rank, like 2 queens. Finally, you have the high card, which is simply the weakest. You have no combination, and your hand is judged only by your single highest card. Once this hierarchy is burned into your memory, every decision at the table becomes clearer. Table positions and blinds. This aspect of Texas Hold'em is mostly overlooked. First, you should know that your seat determines the order in which you act, and acting last is a huge advantage. A small round disc called the dealer button moves clockwise 1 seat after every hand. The 2 players immediately to the left of the button are required to put in forced bets called blinds. The first is the small blind, a smaller bet, and the second is the big blind, which is twice that amount. These forced bets ensure there is always money in play. If you act early, right after the blinds, you're usually considered in early position. And you're at a disadvantage because you'll have to make decisions with no information about what other players will do. The middle position is safer, while the late position, especially the cutoff and the button, is the best seat in the house. In late position, you see how most of the table acts before making your decision, allowing you to steal pots, control betting, and play a wider range of hands profitably. That's why professional poker players seem extremely selective about what hands they play from early position. This discipline is one of the biggest skill edges over casual players, who often ignore the power of position altogether. Betting rounds. The first round in Texas Hold'em is pre-flop. After everyone has their 2 hole cards, action begins with the player left of the big blind. Players can fold, call the big blind, or raise. This is where you choose whether to invest chips based on the strength of your starting hand and your table position. The second round is the flop. 3 community cards are dealt face up, and another round of betting begins, starting with the player to the left of the dealer. The flop provides the first glimpse of how your hand might develop. Next is the turn. A 4th community card is added to the board. Bets usually get larger here because the picture of each hand is clearer. Finally comes the river, the 5th community card. After one last round of betting, any remaining players reveal their cards in what is called the showdown. The cool thing about this setup is that every street gives you a little more to work with. The best players make it look like they're strong to scare people off, or act weak to set a trap and get paid. Betting actions explained. Every decision you make in poker is communicated through one of 5 basic actions: fold, check, bet, call, and raise. Folding is simple. You throw your cards away and surrender your claim to the pot. Checking means you decline to bet but stay in the hand, only possible if no bet has been made before you. Betting is putting chips into the pot when no one else has done so yet in that round. Calling means you match another player's bet to stay in the hand. While raising is increasing the size of the bet, forcing your opponents to either call your larger amount, fold, or raise again. Now, these options seem pretty straightforward, but poker strategy comes from choosing the right action at the right time. For instance, a check can be a trap. A call can be a sign of weakness or strength depending on the context. Poker's language is betting, so mastering its dynamics is what separates you from amateurs. Showdown and hand comparison. If 2 or more players remain after the final round of betting, the cards are revealed. The dealer reads the best 5-card combination each player can make using their 2 hole cards and the 5 community cards. The player with the strongest hand wins the pot. If hands are identical, the pot is split evenly. Slowdowns may seem simple, but they're often where players learn the most. Observing what cards your opponents played and how they bet them gives invaluable insight for future hands. Why? Poker is a memory game. The more hands you watch reach showdown, the sharper your instincts become. A basic pre-flop and flop scenario. Let us walk through a hand. You are sitting in the middle position with the ace of hearts and the king of spades. The blinds are posted. The action folds to you. This is a premium starting hand, so you raise 3 times the big blind. The players in the blinds both fold, and only the player in the big blind calls. The flop comes 10 of clubs, 7 of hearts, 2 of diamonds. You miss the flop, but still have strong overcards. The big blind checks to you. Rather than betting blindly, you choose to check and see what your opponent does. They bet half the pot, suggesting either a small pair or a speculative hand. You call, keeping the pot under control. On the turn and river, you do not improve, and the hand checks down. Your opponent reveals a small pair, and you lose this one, but you have learned their betting tendencies. This hand demonstrates patience and disciplined play with a strong starting hand that does not connect with the board. Bluffing and pot odds. Now imagine you are on the bottom, holding 7 of hearts and 3 of clubs. A weak hand. Everyone folds to you and you raise. Both blinds call. The flop is 8 of spades, the king of diamonds, 2 of hearts. Both opponents check. Sensing weakness, you bet representing a king. One player calls. The turn is a queen of hearts. Again, your opponent checks. You fire a larger bet and they fold. This bluff only worked because you had a position and read the situation well. Understanding pot odds is crucial in moments like this. Pot odds are the ratio of the current pot to the amount you must call. If the pot is 100 and your opponent bets 20, you are getting great odds to call with a drawing hand. The more comfortable you become with this math, the less often you'll make costly mistakes. Basic strategy principles. Poker strategy might look complicated, but it's really simple to understand, just tough to master. The very first thing you need to nail is hand selection. Great poker players fold way more than they play. They only start with strong hands, especially when they're one of the first to act, and they loosen up when they're last to act. That brings us to the second pillar, position. If you're acting after your opponents, you get more information and more control over the pot. This is why pros always say they'd rather have a mediocre hand in position than a strong one out of position. The third key is all about aggression. Playing passively will drain your chips. You want to be the one betting and raising, not just calling. Aggression keeps the pressure on your opponents and lets you scoop pots even without monster hands. Yes, bluffing is part of this, but do it sparingly. If you bluff too much, sharp players will catch on and punish you. And lastly, bankroll management. No strategy matters if you're playing with money you can't afford to lose. Set aside a dedicated poker fund and stick to it. This discipline will keep you in the game long enough to actually get good. Counting outs and simple math. Calculating your outs just means counting how many cards are left in the deck that can actually improve your hand. So say you're holding 4 cards to a flush. There are 9 cards of that suit left. That's 9 outs. Now here's a quick trick to make the math easy. On the flop, multiply your outs by 4 to get a rough percentage of making your hand by the river. On the turn, multiply by 2. So with 9 outs on the flop, you've got around 36% chance of hitting your flush. Once you know your odds, compare them to the pot odds. If the pot is giving you better value than your chances, you call. If it's not, you fold. This is the math that separates casual players from real poker sharks. Live and online play. Live poker and online poker require slightly different approaches. In live games, physical tells can give information away. A player who suddenly sits up straight or starts breathing heavily might be holding a monster hand. Others may act overly casual to disguise strength. Learn to read these clues, but do not rely solely on them. Online poker moves faster, and you'll not see physical tells. Instead, focus on betting patterns and use available tools like HUDs to track statistics. Play fewer tables at first so you can concentrate on each decision. In both formats, avoid tilt. Tilt is the emotional state of playing poorly because you're upset over a loss. Every player experiences it, but discipline separates winners from losers. Take a break when needed.